Yo, I Respectfully Disagree podcast. Got a special episode today, man. This one has been in the makings.
Right.
Want to welcome to the podcast Clyde from the Complicatedly Misunderstood podcast from the let me get it right. The the Sick Podcast Anvil show. Is that how it flows?
That's it, sir. That's it.
So yeah, long story short, man, I came across you through Mario. My therapist made me do this podcast, and I was always throwing out support the homies and things like that. And he threw out your podcast. I think you started following me first, maybe. I'm not even sure.
Yes, sir.
And then before you knew it, we started having conversations. I started checking out the show. I was like, okay, man, dude's cool. But then we started bumping heads about the Jordan LeBron thing, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be perfect. This is gonna be perfect. So welcome to the show, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. It's been a long time coming. I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate your hustle. I mean, I remember when I first started podcasting and everything you say, support the homies, all this stuff. Like, it's crazy that you actually have to say that when you actually have a circle around you. But I appreciate you, like, pushing the message. You know, man, I'm rocking your tea today. So, yeah, 100%, man. So I'm just glad to finally, like, do this. It's been a minute.
Absolutely. And I think, man, the craziest thing, now, you're saying that it's like, it's such a big shock now that I've been into this for so long to where it's like, I honestly feel like the most support comes from people I've never even met.
Yeah.
And it's like going back and forth, I've never met Mario a day in my life. We've been in sneaker groups probably since before my kids was even born. So we know of each other. Me and him are the same size. So we've done different deals and things like that.
Okay.
But it's like when I hear his show, he's constantly, shouting out the podcast. I hear you do the same. And I'm like, dude, how hard is it to return the favor? I tell people, man, the share button is free.
Facts.
And what's wrong with networking?
Facts, man. And I think the one thing that you honed in on without saying is like, we doing the same thing, right? So it's easy to push somebody who's in that same like I guess element, if you will, and like what you went through. I know what I went through. I know what he is just now starting out and what he's been through. So ultimately, when you find somebody with the same hustle, you just want to make sure that everybody is winning together. You know what I mean? Because your likes, your follows is like wins for me, because I'm like, I hope somebody that listen to my show followed yours and vice versa. So it's all about winning for me.
Absolutely. So real quick, man, I titled this episode "We Done with the 90s," just a joke. Just to I don't like having the LeBron Jordan discussion because it's so watered down now where it's like you can't even wake up and turn on your TV without hearing somebody debating the two.
Right.
But my biggest thing was, it's like when I go back and forth with people, then it becomes personal jabs, and now like we're legit arguing. Like it's a few people that in years past, like, bro, I kid you not, like I would be on my job and I would get up and go take a break because I was so angry. And I'm like, bro, there's no way that a conversation about two people that I don't even know, they don't know me, should ever get me in that element. But then when I started hearing people regurgitate things that social media is saying or stuff that Skip Bayless is saying, and it's just like, come on, man, like this ain't even a real conversation at this point.
Yeah. I think the truth of the matter is, since we're talking like strictly LeBron and strictly MJ, is like I don't like having a conversation either because I feel like they really should never be compared. And it's not just because of position, but it's like a lot of things that you and I have talked about. You got different elements of time, eras, different players, athleticism, blah, 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 all the things, right? But well, when you have people up at the top, I mean, for forever, the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, the next whoever that comes around, they're going to be up in that conversation. Like, oh, is he the next LeBron, right? Or if you go to another sport, like, oh, is now Mahomes the new Brady? Like, that's just the element of sports. But the thing
Yeah.
that I like talking about, especially with somebody who actually appreciates the game like you do, is the fact that a lot of times we can get beyond the stats. And like one thing that I say is let conversation influence you. And what that means is like hear somebody out, hear their point of view, and don't just be ready to rebut. Because sometimes you get enlightened on some stuff. You be like, shit, you know what? As much as I watched the game, as much as I thought I knew about that person, guess what I didn't know? You know what I'm saying? And so
Exactly.
that's where I've evolved to. But I used to be a young Thundercat in my 20s, bro. I just back and forth jabbing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
done with that. So for that, I'm done with the 90s when it comes to that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So yeah, so we'll dive into it deeper. I just wanted to get the gist of what the overall conversation was going to be about.
Okay.
But like we alluded to, man, you got the complicatedly misunderstood as well
Yeah.
as the one with the Colts.
Okay.
So I want to dive into that just for a little bit because it's like, how long have you been into podcasting?
All right, man. Like, no kidding. I started podcasting in 2017. I never forget my
Okay.
first podcast was November 26, 2017. Um, and I was completely out of my mind lost. My first podcast was with one of my mentors, Dr.
Mhm.
Stuart Proctor. And that one was called CO and the Doctor, right? Like playing
Okay.
off the fact that he has his doctor degree. And we just talk about, what it is to be black man and, just that kind of thing. That's how it started for me. And we did that for about 4 years. And then, just life kind of started happening. He started working on a different program. He started like taking little side jobs where he was teaching and stuff because he used to be in the military too. He retired. And
Mhm.
so for a minute, I was kind of in a lull, like, so what do I do without him? And then I kind of transitioned to, okay, you know what? I'm still pretty much in this podcasting game when it comes to myself. So let me just go out here on a limb. And that was strange because I didn't have anybody to like counter off of or somebody
Yeah.
like feeding off of me. So it took me a minute to kind of just hear myself talk for 45 minutes to an hour or whatever. So,
Right.
and then while doing that, I had rolled into my first sports podcast with my now soon to be ex brother-in-law and a homie I grew up with, and that was called Indie Boys, where we talked about all sports indie, right?
Mhm.
And again, with some things happening personally, and then we kind of had to break that up. And then some boys out of Indiana picked me up to run with them, and they were just like starting a venture. And we called it the Amble Show because we wanted to kind of have something that was sports related, going to the Colts specifically, but not just the horseshoe this, blah blah blah. Everybody's got that title. So we ran with the Anvil because we smashed the Anvil before every game. And bro, when I tell you blessings just started to align, man, like we started, because I got Pat, he's in the circle of no. So we started getting GM, Chris Ballard on the show, other Colts players. That led to getting some media access. That led to us getting picked up on a startup network, which is the Sick Podcast Network. It led to me going to the Super Bowl Media Week, this year for Super Bowl and just so many other things, man. It's just been,
Absolutely.
I can't even tell you, bro. Blessings.
Absolutely, man. And kudos to you, man. That's why, when we was chopping it up about, how we was gonna lay the show out or whatever, I was like, I wanted to highlight that because I think that's amazing in terms of I think maybe a year now that
Yeah,
me and you have kind of known each other and you know
thanks.
what I'm saying? And it's like watching that, I feel like I've seen that like step for step, and it's like, okay, I saw when the GM, it's like, okay, man, that's dope, that's dope. Then I started seeing y'all on the field. I was like, okay, I was like, man, they really going with this.
Yeah,
And
man,
I
it's
was
been
like,
crazy.
okay, Super Bowl. I was like, okay, he's out there, bro. I was like, man, that's dope and that's so inspiring. So for those that are into the podcast space and trying to get into media and things like that, it's like for me looking at it, I have days where I'm just like, dude, I'm sick of this. Like, I don't want to do it no more. Kind of going back to what you were saying when you was like, you're doing it on your own. It's just kind of hard listening to yourself. And even for me, it's like I hate doing it alone because it sounds like I'm preaching.
Yeah, I see.
And
Yeah,
that's not the case. That's not the message that I'm trying to go for. And I
right.
don't want to turn people off, but at the same time, it's like trying to create content, trying
Yeah,
to talk and do this and do that. And then sometimes it does get hard and gets frustrating. So that's why I was like, you have a story of success.
Yeah, man.
And
Appreciate that.
that is super dope, man.
Yeah, I feel like, bro, like when it comes to what you're attempting to do, like you gotta be your own biggest critic, which you probably are, but then you gotta also be your biggest support system.
Mhm,
Cause you know what I mean? Like for me, like honestly, you can kind of say you have like these, like for me, I had like a low lying goal. I was like, you know what? I just want to be in the space when it comes to individual content creators with the coach. So but what that meant for me is like, hey, look, people are actually following and listening to what we say. That's it. Like low end goals, right?
mhm.
But then when we were able to turn that into a tailgate, because we have a full official tailgate that's actually, basically part of the Colts Nation, that's when everything took off. And I'm like, holy shit, like I wasn't even ready for that. Excuse me for my language. So what I'm saying is never put yourself in a box. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, exactly what you said. You're like, man, I don't want to do this. It's all by myself. But the one thing about you, man, like your shows could be talking about hamburgers, uh, shoes that you review, and then like the most hot button, like serious topics that might be, things that people need to hear and everything in between. So you don't really have like one thing that keeps you in the box. So with that, don't keep yourself in any box. Like if your podcast ends up opening the door to be specifically for something, jump after it. But if you just keep hitting all these elements, man, you're gonna line yourself with the right person to hear you. And before you know it, bro, I feel like you got the talent to go to the next level because you're so versed. You got so much to talk about. Straight up.
Definitely appreciate it, because man, when it first started out, everything was just gonna be strictly sports. And
Right.
for those that have been following the podcast or whatnot, or go back and check out some earlier episodes, all of this came about because I was always going live on Facebook. And I'm talking about having full blown rants and talking about the games and things like that. And so many people would chime in, like people were really watching.
Yeah.
People kept saying, man, you should do a podcast. You should do a podcast. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I don't think I'm ready for that. I don't want to do that. And, boom, I started doing it. And it was strictly, sports talk, conversations, top
Right.
this, who's the best this. But then females was like, I would love to support, but I don't really follow sports like that. So I can't really get into it for real. So that's when I started trying to change things up to make
Yeah.
it more, diverse, to where
Facts.
if it's not about sports, hey, this is something that you could possibly listen to
Yeah.
and things like that. And then it kind of grew legs. But then I hit that area where it's like, okay, I'm tired of talking about current events and things
Right.
like that. I want to get back to the sports. So
Uh,
just trying to mix it up and go back and forth, man.
I feel like you got to, man. And then the other side of the game that, people who definitely know you know you're doing. It's you got like the big crit thing going, right? Like he was like self-produce all this, making his own merch, making his own beats. Like that's what you're doing, bro. You out here hustling, putting your name on everything, hats, shirts, everything, and then people start seeing that. So every time I know I'm gonna be like around people, like a lot of people, I try to rock this or I rock my hoodie based on the weather.
Mhm.
Like I took your hoodie out to Super Bowl weekend. I was just walking around with it, you know what I mean? Now I didn't get anybody to engage me, but the idea is, oh, there must be a podcast, and if they do, boom, right? Like shoot it
Exactly.
out. You know what I
That's
mean? So
so
that's how I am, bro. That's really how I am. Real
definitely
shit.
appreciate it. Like I said, I tell
Absolutely.
people it was never about the money for me and things like that. And even for myself, it's like when I'm at the airport and things like that, people have stopped me. It's like, man, I like that.
Yeah.
I
Facts.
like that. What is that? And I kind of, point them in the direction or whatnot. So definitely appreciate it.
Yep, yep, too easy, man. We got to keep doing it. We got to keep going. I tell Mario the same thing. Like I still haven't got his merch because he ain't re-upped, and I know his wife. I call her sis. He keep calling her like, "Hey, look, she got to re-up my merch." But trying to get his shirt too, man, just to be out there and let everybody know what it is. So I got y'all, bro. Real stuff.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yes,
So
sir.
real quick, the NBA season is slow. You know what? Stop. I'm a pause. Not even going there.
Okay.
I have a question.
All right.
Was that an offensive foul last night?
So I'm gonna say no. Though I've seen a lot of people break it down this morning. They talking about like, but my buddy who I was watching it with, he is a ref right now. He's currently not a ref, but he's ref for 10, 15 years. He's just been out of it for the last couple. He says the one thing that you can't do in that situation, if it's not egregious, you cannot stop the flow of the game, and you cannot be the reason that the outcome of the game is going to be changed. So for that, I was definitely like, no, it's not a foul. But for that too, in support of that, no, you can't make that call. And if it's not egregious, she didn't lead with an elbow, just bully her way into the person that's trying to, fight over the screen. Nah, man, you gotta let that go. We never know what's gonna happen, right? It's crazy.
Amen, dude. And I was like, I'm one of them people where I feel like with replay, you can manipulate it however you want to.
Big
And I
fact.
see a lot of people slowing it down. Now,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. I feel like her stance is what kind of gave him that illusion because she was wide in her
Super
stance.
wide. Yep.
It looked like she was stepping into her, but it was like Paige hadn't even came off yet. So I
Mhm.
feel like it didn't impede anything that was going on in terms of what was getting ready to happen.
Right.
And I'm like, how do you call that when the people's like, oh, well, according to the rule book, they're supposed to call it this? And I was like, okay, then
Nah.
why didn't they call the Jordan push off just a few plays later? And I'm like, you can't pick and choose when you want to follow the rule book.
Yeah.
And I get it. Officiating has to be one of the hardest things out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Um,
it's like, bro, this is for a national championship.
right. I think the hard thing too, and I've never been an official, but beyond your reputation of you can't care about that, right? You got to make a call if you feel like you got to make a call, but ultimately, I feel like you have to set the tone of how you going to ref the game early and let that be. You know what I mean? And so the problem was all game is UConn seemingly couldn't play defense. Like everything was a foul on there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I'm like, now going back and seeing how the flow of the game went, I'm like, well, damn, there you go, right? Like they've been calling crazy stuff all day on UConn, so here it is. And maybe that's wrong too, because don't get me wrong, like I'm definitely a Caitlin fan because I'm an Indiana fan, and we're gonna select her first unless something changes in the world. But I mean, she was getting away with a lot of off arm work. Like she get away with a lot of off arm work, bro. Like
Yeah.
she will literally check you like bang. And they
Right.
did exactly what you and Mario said the other night. Like they 94'd her the whole game, bro. Like, and which slowed her down heavily in the first half, and then she kind of caught a little wave in the third. But yeah, man, I feel like that's the problem, man. These refs, like, they have to be conditioned to understand that the absolute complexity of officiating, which I think they do, but they got to really understand the importance of the overall moment. Like, don't steal somebody's moment. Like
Exactly.
they busting their ass for this moment, bro. Coaches is coaching. Everybody, the whole crowd is into it. It's been a great game, man. You can't do that. You
And
can't do that, fam.
And I was just like, my wife, her mouth dropped. I jumped up off the couch. I was like, no way.
That's
I was
crazy.
like, we'll never even know. Like, it looked like he was finna draw up something brilliant. Because I don't know if you watched the whole game.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there was a few times where so much attention was on Paige to where it was designed for them to set these screens. Everybody's coming after her, but
Mhm.
they was dumping down to Edwards, wide open layups. And it felt like that's exactly what was getting ready to happen.
Facts.
She would have had a wide open little shot there in the lane, but we'll never know.
Never know,
And
man.
that's the part that I was just like, bro, like you take away, like we complain about the NBA game. There's no coaching for real. Just give the
Mhm.
ball to the superstar and go do your thing.
Right, right.
But it was like you was really getting ready to see what Gino had in his bag,
Yeah,
and he was just robbed, like just
yeah,
took it away from us. And I was just like, come on, man.
yeah,
And I'm a
man.
big Caitlin fan too. I'm like, I just appreciate basketball.
Facts,
And that's
facts.
gonna be something that we'll touch on later on with our Jordan LeBron thing. But it's like, dude,
Yeah. You know what, too, man? Like the game for them was so methodical, bro. Like for a minute, I thought I was watching Princeton in the '90s. All the backdoor, like little pocket
yeah,
pass. Like I'm like, because me and my buddy watched it, like, bro, how does this keep being open? Like it's crazy. So you're watching them do that, and then you're watching Iowa kind of like work through. I forget her name, number 45. And then, she was making some good passes until like the last minute in the game. She had 3 turnovers, just making the wrong
Shulk
read.
or whatever.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, like, and I was like, I like big girl's game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
because it funnels through her, and they understood, like, hey, look, they playing Caitlin tough, so somebody got to get
mhm,
buckets, somebody got to, draw attention, and she was working. You know what I mean? So I liked, what was going on between the coaches. But yeah, like you said, man, you steal that moment, bro. You can't steal that moment. You just can't do it. You know
right,
what I mean? So yeah, that's
right.
unfortunate, man. And I ain't never gonna call for nobody's job like that. Like I don't know the pressure of being an official like that, but I know they
Mhm.
do get checked. I know they do get reviewed. So for that, I would probably say if they don't get fired, like they shouldn't have another big time game until they earn it again. My
Yeah,
thoughts. So
that was tough, man.
yeah, fact.
So real quick before we slide over, Do you think they have a legitimate shot against South Carolina?
Hey man, look, I say like this. Now look, man, we in America, we already know how this is, bro. Like you got one race on one team, and you got another race primarily on another team. But I'll put it to you like this: damn all that, damn all that. Let's not even make it about black and white. I'll
Mhm.
just say last year, same exact situation. South
Yeah,
Carolina undefeated, 36-0, whatever it is, and they come in and the semifinals or whatever, and Caitlin got it done. She dropped 41. I will say Don Staley probably won't come out and play her the same. She will have elements of what Gino had and some other stuff. And
yeah,
this year, South Carolina shoots a little bit better, and they got some guard play that's stronger. So I think it's tougher. But I'm gonna say roll the ball out and let's see what happens. But we'll know early. If
yeah.
South Carolina what they will not do is be able to fight back from a 17 to 20 point deficit. That ain't happening. If
I,
South Carolina do that, it's over.
I like for me, it's like I don't want to fall into that trap of I feel like everything is geared towards Iowa winning,
Yeah.
but I feel like the last few games with South Carolina, they're a little bit vulnerable.
Okay.
Now, the second half yesterday, they went on and turned up and blew them out. But for a
Right.
minute there, NC State was
Yeah.
going back and forth with them.
Right.
And then the game before that, they had blew a big lead. And it's like you didn't really see that dominance. And I'm like, okay, on a certain day, they can be got. And
Facts.
I'll say this: I'm shocked at our supporting cast thus
For
far.
real. Because they didn't have it last year like this.
Right. And I was just like, man, them girls is tough. Like
Facts.
they can hoop.
Man, the way they their inside out game is insane, bro. Like they move the ball like it's literally on the string, like all the stuff you want kids to learn when they're young. Don't take excessive dribbles, don't put yourself in bad spaces. The ball always moves faster than your feet, that type of thing. And they know when to shoot. And like they didn't panic when Caitlin wasn't getting off yesterday. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They were down a little bit, but they kept kind of like biting at it, and they almost knew like at some point she gonna be Caitlin. But until then, we not waiting on Caitlin, which I respected. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Exactly.
they got hard, bro. So
Yeah.
don't take them lightly.
I'll be locked in tomorrow for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
moving on. Speaking of moving screens and all that good jazz, you wanted to discuss your boy Draymond.
Listen,
And the NBA's coming down to the nitty-gritty. We, stepping into the last week. I feel
okay,
like Golden State is starting to hit that stride. It's just unfortunate that it's just the play-in position is like somebody's gonna lose.
yep,
And you're not gonna get a 7-game series with one of these teams that's at the bottom. Granted, it's the Lakers or Golden State,
right,
but you didn't expect Golden State to be in this position considering how their season went last year. They added Chris Paul, things like that. But then Draymond is just off the hinges. I feel like this season right here has just been like, okay, man, like we've given you a pass in years past,
hmm,
but now it's like, all right, man, it's hard to defend this guy.
fact,
Let's
fact.
hear it. Let's hear it.
And so for me, man, like I felt like, I'm not taking away from Draymond, but if you go back and look at like how Rodman was off the hinges or whatever, I feel like he always was respected more for what he did as a player, even though he was off the hinges. I don't think Draymond has that skill set, and I'm not saying offensively was Rodman some kind of dog, but it's just like you knew how he was going to defend, you knew how he was going to rebound, you knew how integral that was to whatever team. But
Mhm.
that always outweighed his foolishness, which is why people kept taking chances on him. Because I thought he was done after San Antonio. Like, ain't nobody definitely gonna pick this fool up. But lo and behold, he gets another job. So I say all that to say, when you think about how Draymond is, yes, he's important to Golden State, but I think that he's also crippling to Golden State to the point where they have to make a decision. I mean, I ain't gonna put no words into what I thought I saw, but if Steph Curry was tearing up at that moment, it was because the ultimate frustration just kicked in. And then you heard him say, "Bro, we need you." In the press conference, basically said, "Bro, we need you. We
Right.
can't keep dealing with this." And then we hearing stuff behind, the scenes that him and Steve Kerr really get into it. Of course, he punched Jordan last year. All this craziness, bro. And I'm like, why does he keep getting these opportunities to even be a part of the squad? It's insane. Like, I don't think they need him that much to keep putting up with this. And perhaps he is starting to like push himself out of, I won't say the league, but definitely out of Golden State. And for that, man, I'm not with it. I would just sit him, bro. Like I'm just like, period. He's been suspended by the league, come back, says he's sorry, did all this, and then he just had an incident. Who did he just had an incident with where he kicked toward the groin again?
Oh
That's
gosh.
like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's like, did he just kick the man in the groin?
Williams.
Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, something's literally not okay with Buddy, and I'm not about to get into mental health and all that. That ain't what I'm speaking
Right.
of. But I feel like the team itself, and maybe he'll feel like they have turned their back on him. But I mean, if I as a leader, if I'm Steph, Clay, CP3, he knew, but hey, he 39-year-old vet. Hey, bro, hey, we have voted, man. We voting you off the island, dog. Like we want you to be on the bench. And if we make a deep playoff run and you start, to lock in a little bit more, then maybe. But I mean, take it as you want it, bro. You've hurt us more this year than helped us. So for real, you know what I'm
And
saying? That's
I'm
how.
gonna take it a step further, man. I don't even want to say just this year, bro. I feel like he has set that franchise back. That's why when you say you want to talk about it, I was like, nah, that's perfect. Like,
Yeah,
I want to dive into it, big picture, because I'm like, okay, a lot of people hated the KD move and all of
yeah.
that. He's been, Golden State's been a thorn in my guy's side for literally the last 5+ years.
Facts.
But in terms of basketball, the history and franchises and creating a dynasty and things like that, you can almost single-handedly blame Draymond Green for KD's departure.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like you see coming back off the Achilles, Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant.
Yep.
So you would have got that version of KD back.
Right. I mean, you went
And
to
they
him.
would have just kept going. You know what I'm saying? But you'll never know now. Then they still, get a steal with Jordan Poole. You just knew that it's like, okay, once Clay and them start riding off into the sunset,
Got your
you have
next.
a guy that can still bring that style of play, that excitement. He can explode for 25 or 30 at any given moment,
Yep.
and then boom. And now they're out there in Washington treating him like he's a bum. And I'm like, that shows you how well that organization was being ran because of the intangibles in terms of 1 through 15. I think peak Golden State was when they could take their starting five out. In the second five, there was no drop.
That's insane. It was crazy. It was a crazy time, bro. It's facts.
And it's like, you can say all of that has slowly diminished
Facts.
and narrow it down to Draymond and his antics.
And look, man, the hard part about that is I always thought, well, maybe they have such a dedication to him and this team itself because for the most part, they drafted everybody, right? Like all of this happened, kind of over time, right? Like, okay, you start with Steph and you keep adding pieces, and then boom, here you go. We just take off and we winning chips and everything else. And so I felt like maybe they were like too loyal to that point because there's no way, and I'm a KD fan to a point, but he ain't like one of my tops. But I definitely respect game. But there's no point I run KD out of town before I say, hey, Draymond, it's time to kick rocks, my guy. Like, because Steph, Clay, and KD, honestly, who knows? But that's 5 rings in my easy 5. Like easy 5. Split it however you want to as far as who gets finals MVP and all that other, who cares? But that's 5 rings easy. Like we ain't even gonna pretend like that. I mean, Steph already got 4, right? So
Yeah.
3, what is it? 2 with KD and 2 alone? Yeah. So all I'm saying is there's no way I split that up, especially if we've already done the math and the numbers and we make it work. Like, what are we talking about? So I get it. He's a glue guy, right? Like he does that. He has that element to him, the fake tough, as I like to call it. And I get it. This league is so different now, right? So yeah, we can't be going out there and clubbing people like Oakley and the boys from the 90s, right? You can't have a New York Knicks team or a Detroit Pistons team from the 90s and be effective because everybody would be suspended forever. You know what I'm saying? But it's a fake tough, man. Like, bro, like nobody's afraid of you, but because they have to officiate him differently, I think he gets the edge. Because I mean, Draymond can honestly foul out every game,
Easily,
bro. Like
easily
every game.
in the first half,
In
yeah,
the
if not
first-
the first quarter.
yeah, but
But
they
it's
don't do
like
that. So
I'm just shocked, and like you said, the league is different. But it's like I'm shocked that nobody has called his bluff yet, and it's like, you know what? I don't care if I get suspended a game or two. Like, you're not finna keep doing this. Just as a
yeah,
man, like as
yeah.
a man, like I'm not finna keep letting you with no. You keep coming close to kicking me in my joints, and I'm like, nah, man, I
Yeah,
can't have it.
you know who would be perfect, and he's been gone for a minute. But if Zebo was still around,
Ooh,
old Zebo from Memphis, and I represent, because he's from Indiana, he went to Marion High School and stuff like that. But he was honestly like the boy that's at NC State right now, DJ Burns, right? Like,
uh-huh.
he had that old school game, not super athletic, but I can get my points. But he also had this dog in him, like, hey, bro, you're not gonna get over on me.
Not at
So
all.
one of them random, Draymond kicks or whatever, like, all right, cool. Like when I come back with this elbow and touch you up, you know what I mean? So
It's
nobody's even
funny
done that. Nobody's even
at
like they
all.
fear him, bro. It's crazy. Like, come
It's
on.
funny you say that because I was just looking at the clip earlier. I saw it on IG where Zebo and Boogie was going back and forth. And he
Yeah.
was like, "Where I'm from, the bullies get bullied." I remember that, dude.
Big facts, man. Like, yeah, he was a dog, man. He definitely, deserved all of his flowers while he was playing. But like, we just need a guy like that because I feel like a lot of people just take what he give. Like, hey, like Draymond out here acting a fool, we just gonna accept that. Like, hell no. Who's on the roster that don't care about numbers, don't care about minutes? Sub him in.
Yeah.
Go get your 6 fouls a day, if you will, if you know what I mean. And let's set the tone the way it's supposed to be, man. Like that's what I miss about the game. And I get it. You got to protect, the brand and make sure that you're going to keep on getting the numbers and filling the stands, man. But it's too watered down now. So when I actually heard, kind of shifting gears from Draymond, that the league was looking into changing maybe how they allow defense and trying to knock some of this point stuff off, I actually got excited because I'm like, bro, I mean, man, I'm a Pacer fan. I'm from Indy. Because we'll have 152 in regulation, but win by 3. So I'm like,
Right.
damn, we dropped 152 and gave up 149. Like, what is this? This is insane, bro. And we'll lose games like that. Or you'll take like Jalen Brunson the other night. Bro, you dropped 61 and y'all lost? That's not real. I don't
Mm,
know, man. I can't handle it, dog.
man. Like if you saw somebody dropping 60, you knew that was like a once in a lifetime out
Facts.
of body experience. And now it's just he had 60 some, Luca dropped 70 on the Hawks, and it just looked like you won't even remember it unless somebody brings it up.
Bro, Buddy from Detroit the other day had 50 off the bench.
I
Off
look,
the
I
bench.
didn't even see it till I started seeing people posting. I'm like, what?
Man, that's
I'm like, off the
crazy.
bench?
And
I'm
they
like,
lost.
that's
And they
crazy.
lost by 10. It's crazy.
Wow, it's tough, man. So perfect setup, perfect transition. Um, I don't want to steal old buddy's phrase because it's hot right now.
Yeah,
Everybody's, we done with the 90s, this and that. I
exactly.
heard you reference the Knicks and this and
Yeah,
that. So it's like this is perfect. And it's like I want to set this tone first because I know me and you have had some back and forths, like lengthy conversations via,
yeah, yeah.
inbox messages and things like that. And it's like my stance on this Jordan thing,
Okay.
throw LeBron out for right now.
All right.
I was born in 84. So
Cool.
when Jordan was drafted, I wasn't even thought of yet because the draft was what, June, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I was born in October of 84.
Okay.
So it had already happened. So I'm saying that by the time I became of age and was able to pay attention to what was really going on, the Bulls had just started winning.
Okay.
91, 92, like I was there to fully aware of what was happening. Chicago Bulls, everything.
Right, right,
They
right.
were rock stars.
Yep.
I remember the 92 Dream Team, the McDonald's Cups back in the day. So I
Fact.
remember that vividly. I'm telling everyone, I had Jordans. I had the Jordan posters. I had all of that. So I fall in that category. I do not dislike Michael Jordan.
Gotcha.
Now, I remember my brother, come fly with me on VCR and all of that. Michael Jordan's playground.
Yeah.
So all of this is stamped in my childhood memories, just like everyone else.
Okay.
Now, the older I got, and you remember the Ultimate Michael Jordan DVD collection or whatever, I have all of that here. So when I, get bored or ESPN Classic and I sit back and I start watching these games and I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, Jordan was just ahead of his time, bro. Like there was nobody on the court that could physically do anything with him. Like he was just head over heels above everybody else.
That's fair.
So I started changing how I viewed it. I wasn't even a LeBron fan with him coming out of high school. I was rocking with Carmelo because I was like, man, how's this kid getting all this praise and this and that? I'm like, bro, we the same age. I'm like, who is this kid?
Right.
So then the Detroit thing happens where he drops 25 straight. I'm in college.
Yeah.
I'm in college then. So I'm sitting here watching this game and I'm like mesmerized. I'm like, bro, this is insane. They're throwing bodies at him. It wasn't nothing they could do. Like he was just in a zone.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I started paying attention. I'm like, bro, he plays the game the right way.
Fair.
I did not like Kobe Bryant because I've seen Kobe shoot with 2 and 3 people on him. Kobe, phenomenal basketball player. You cannot take that away from him. I've said it on this podcast 1,000 times. I respect his work ethic and his approach to the game because not everybody has that killer mentality, me against the world. And cool, if that's what you like, that's what you like.
Yep.
But for me, in terms of basketball, I admired that LeBron was willingly passing to his peers and willingly asking his others, like, hey, come on, man, let's go. Let's take this ride. I'm going to get us there. If I'm open, I'll shoot it. If you're open, I trust you to take the shot. But he caught so much flack for those moments because of what we saw with Jordan or what we saw with Kobe. And it was just like, now I'm rooting for the underdog type thing. Like, bro, nope, I'm diehard LeBron. I'm not trying to hear
it. I hear. So you are, honestly, we share a lot of the same thoughts. Hearing that entire, breakdown all the way down to the Kobe thing, felt the same way. But if we starting with Mike before we get to LeBron, I would say I was born in '82. Okay, so I no kidding knew what was going on with basketball. Honestly, I would say the first finals I remember, it's the first time '88. That was Detroit and LA. So I was about 6, almost 7 years old, and I'm watching that. That's when Isaiah dropped 25 with the bum ankle. I remember watching that because at that time that was my favorite point guard. So my affinity for Mike, kind of like you, was like, I got to root for the underdog because he can't beat these guys, right? Like he can't beat them, but he's carrying the squad. And as a young kid, of course, you mesmerized by all the athleticism and the dunks and the crazy layups. And as a kid, you don't really understand, like, okay, what's the right play? Like, what should he have done there? Like, is that a bad shot? Like, you just want to see your dude just keep getting points. And that's how I grew up. Everybody like, 3, 2, 1 fadeaway Michael Jordan sock into the hamper type shit, right? That's me. So as I am growing up, and now Mike's starting to win, right? So now I'm like, okay, I'm actually playing ball now, right? I'm 10 years old, 11 years old. I'm actually playing ball. Like, nobody can remember the game after Michael Jordan, but you just wanted to have his confidence. You wanted to have his fearlessness. And I think that's where I was totally locked in with Mike, because I'm like, if he got 2 or 3 guys on him, that's probably a terrible shot, but he's not afraid to take it because maybe he don't trust in Bill Cartwright. Maybe he don't trust in John Paxson, but he's fearless enough to be like, yeah, we lost that game and I took the shot, but I'll take it again. So then when I jumped to LeBron, same just like you, I was a Melo fan. I watched him run the racket that he ran in 2002, 2003 to win, give Syracuse their first title under Jim Boeheim, all that other stuff. Now I'm watching that and I'm like, yo, that's a dog. But then I'm seeing LeBron, no college career, whatever. So I'm like, damn, they already giving this man $100 million. Like, hold on, man, slow down. Like, let him earn something. So those first couple of years, all right, you see the talent, But that Detroit series, I'm like, yo, this is somebody different. Just like you, right? Somebody different. But then I'm starting to watch him more, like defending him against the Kobe talks. I'm like, bro, you can't do that. Kobe in his prime, LeBron just learning, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, damn, he ain't taking these shots. And I know that's the right basketball play. I'm not going to knock that because I understand. But damn, bro, like, You put the whole season on Verjao? Like, I can't live with that for a second. Like, I know that's the right play. He wide open, but he wide open for a reason. Like, we don't even care about Verjao right there. So, but again, I'm still defending them. And I'm just like, okay, he took the Michael Jordan length, 7 years, struggle. Finally get that first championship after we get past that. He had some help. I ain't even knocking for that. D-Wade, Bosh, hey man, look, you still the leader on the team. Cool. And I think when I really started to knock him was after the championship stopped. Because I'm like, how much is he having to do with these teams that he's forming? And then like he say, hey, I'm about to morph into to playoff Bron mode, and y'all know what that mean, and like that don't mean much. Like you just kind of fall off the cliff again. I'm like, come on, fam. Like, now what we gonna do here? Because you have been putting some crazy squads together, right? The Lakers, since he got there, these Laker squads have been insane. Now I know these dudes are old, but I'm like, bro, when you look at the roster, you're like, y'all fighting for a playoff? Like, how y'all not like at least 3? Like, like you shouldn't be in these predicaments in my thought process. And I just feel like he was getting copped out for that. Like, oh, he's still doing his job and this and that. Like, but bro, we're not gonna act like he don't have nothing to do with the squad. He got a lot to do with that. Would you agree?
That's fair. That's a fair assessment, and I'm there with you. Go ahead.
No, but I'm just saying, like, and again, my criticism, and like I'm like you, I am not a LeBron hater. I'm a big time LeBron fan. But I just felt like 2 things in his career, kind of like veered me off the course. First and foremost, like I felt like he should have been in that mentality. Like, all right, I need to set my game in a way to like Magic Johnson. I want to have the ball in my hand. Don't put no small guards underneath me. I don't need that. Build my team 6'7" and beyond. 1, 2, 3. Because I'm sitting at 6'8". I'll be the one. My 2 is 6'6", 6'7". My 3 is 6'8", 6'9", and then we got 2 bigs. Like I wanted them to have a Lakers or like a Lake Shows type build from the jump. But back in the day, he had Shaw and all these other goobers running point guard. I'm like, get the hell out of here, man. They making your job harder. You know what I mean? Because you need the ball and you can't depend on these cats. So I wanted him to kind of just that Larry Hughes team early on. I'm like, I know Larry got hurt and they eventually got traded, but I'm like, yo, that's a good look. Like, that's a good look if they can keep that going. And then it didn't happen. And then, over time, he just kept having some Norris Cole and Chalmers and the list goes on. Like, oh, none of that ever made sense to me. Just make you the point guard. Just call yourself the point guard, point forward, whatever, and build a big team. And then the other thing was you have so much to do with all these other squads and how they're being built. But are you taking accountability for these losses? Almost like the Giannis talk that we have. Would you say LeBron takes accountability for not making the playoffs or being a play-in team or getting exited in the first round? Would you say he's held himself accountable both publicly and personally for the way they've been bound out over the last 3-4 years?
I don't think publicly.
Okay.
I don't think so. Like you'll hear him come to the presser and you hear the BS, saying
Yeah.
rehearse response, but it's like based on the roster, y'all shouldn't even been in this position to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go back a little bit.
Okay. Facts.
Because my thing is, if you look at MJ's timeline,
okay,
he came into the league, phenomenal athlete.
Yep.
Nobody ever seen this before. Like he took the league by storm.
Absolutely.
Offensively, head over heels, but at that point in time, you're talking about prime Lakers, prime Celtics, Detroit's up and coming.
Yep.
So everybody was like, he didn't have enough. He didn't have enough. They draft Pippen, they draft Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan molded them, turned them into what they became. Jordan did this and done that. Now, I'm saying to you, LeBron never had that luxury to build through the draft.
Oh, fair. Definitely.
So fair. That's when I'm telling, I'm saying this to people. I'm like, bro, like they never had the luxury. You said it earlier, even with Golden State. You respect Golden State because it was organic.
Yep.
Up until the KD move, everything Golden State was organic.
Fact.
In-house. So you respect and appreciate a GM and a team that can put and mold and see the vision of a team in the direction that they want to go. So you look at LeBron, it was everything was LeBron or bust.
Facts.
And I'm saying to you, even coming out of high school, I'm not going to put him in a category with a Jordan or a Kobe because of the skill set. LeBron wasn't a shooter. He wasn't a scorer. It was just so natural that his athletic ability at a high school level was just so superior.
Yeah.
To where he's getting 25 or 30 in his sleep.
Yep.
But if you looked even then, he was constantly setting up his teammates. Everybody got a piece of the pie.
Fair enough.
So you come into the NBA and it's like, we expect you to be like this guy or be like that guy. And I'm like, the skill set's not there. How can you tell him to take the shot when he's never really had to take the shot before? If you look at his whole high school career, it wasn't the game's on the line.
Yeah, they just running through.
It didn't exist. So I'm like,
okay, that's fair.
That to me is a skill or a gift. Everybody doesn't have that ability to say, give me the ball and it's just me in the rim. I don't care if you throw 5 people at me. Yeah. I'm locked in and this is the basket. So you give kudos to a Jordan or a Kobe because the mindset has to match the skill.
Fair enough.
And I'm just like, bro, I'm like, how do people not see this? I'm like, what is going on? So going back to Jordan real quick, long story short, it's like, okay, he inherits Phil Jackson.
Fair.
We was talking about this the other day, and I'm like, Phil Jackson understood the personnel that they had. And it's like, if we move this piece here, space this here, move this person this way and run the offense, boom, you get Michael Jordan 3-peats. You get that. And I'm like, who has LeBron ever played for? And then you give him Spo and Pat Riley. That's when he starts winning.
Fair.
And I'm like, okay, that's his personal decision to leave Miami and go back to Cleveland. They give him Blatt or whatever his name is. Nobody even knew where this guy came from.
Yeah, Blatt. Yeah, shit.
So then it's like you insert Lou. And I feel like Spo, Riley, and Lou are the only people that he's ever had in his career that will tell him, shut the hell up. We're doing this the way I want it done.
I agree.
And if you measure that, it equated to them winning. Outside of that, if you just allow LeBron, I'm running the show, this is what I want done, scratch this play, scratch that, it doesn't equate to wins in the end. So that is a flaw on LeBron. I give you that. But guess what? That's what Phil Collins was he not?
Okay. 100%. 100%.
Get the ball to Michael. Hey. You let Mike run the show.
Oh, Doug Collins. Yeah,
Doug, that's what I'm talking about.
I was like Phil Collins is a singer, but no, I got you.
My bad. Collins.
Yeah.
But I'm like, he literally, when he hit the shot against Cleveland, get the ball to Michael, get the hell out of the way. But guess what? It didn't equate to them winning the big one. So I'm like, dude, like their careers are nowhere near the same. So how do you measure them on the same scale? And I'm just like, bro, what are we talking about?
Yeah. I mean, that's true too, because as you pointed out, and the one thing that you didn't hit on, but it's definitely, implied is like success becomes a burden. So LeBron won early, right? Like he top of the Eastern Conference, 2-3 years into it. So like you said, yeah, there is no organic chance to build because if you finish that high, like, yeah, you're not going to be in a lottery to draft whoever that might make you, improve that way. So how does free agency play out and this and that and the other? And then they experimented with, bringing in Shaq towards like, come on, fam. Like, you talking about ring one, the king? Like, come on, man, you way past your prime. So yeah, he dealt with a lot of that type of stuff. I remember one year, like, was it the Antoine Jameson year, stuff like that? I'm like, come on, fam. Like, don't get me wrong.
Mario Moon and I'm like, bro, like,
like that. And at that point, on the outside looking in, like, am I diving into what GMs are doing? Probably not. But I'm just like, oh yeah, I agree with him to leave because they ain't helping him. I understand. You make your choice. Nobody can hold you to doing anything. You came back and won for your city. So all the kudos in the world for that.
Plus it was Cleveland. I don't want to interrupt your thought.
No,
who was as a free agent? Who was willingly coming to Cleveland?
That's the point.
I'm sure you've been to Cleveland.
Facts. It's like, bro, it's like me. I'm a Pacer fan. Who the fuck come? Excuse me, like who coming to Indiana? Nobody coming to Indiana, fam.
Willingly, right?
Like so, it's like you are left with what you have, bro. Like so, honestly, either you gonna draft them or you gonna, like they just gonna become something more. Like when Paul George hit for us, we was like, yo, like keep him for life. You know what I mean? Because Danny Granger the same thing, but then he got hurt. So ultimately, yeah, you have to kind of luck out with your selections, and then you just gotta live through it. Like, look, this is our guy. This is how we're gonna build. So with that, they had probably the best athlete ever. You know what I mean? Coming out of high school and locking him in and thinking like, look, this is a 20-year athlete. As we see, he's in year 20. And they thought they was going to have them all there, but they just couldn't get nobody to come up there. You know what I mean? They just couldn't. And then when they did, oh my goodness. You remember it was, bro, that last Cleveland team? Come on, fam. It was D Wade, Rose. I was like, what? I was like, what is going on? And then that team just imploded. But it was crazy, man. It's just crazy.
Sensitive topic right there.
I was like, it's the greatest team ever.
I drove up there, dude. Okay, that was when Paul George, Melo, and Westbrook was still on the squad, and they almost 50 balled them. I was just like, bro, I'm not coming to a game ever again.
It was crazy. I said, what is this? But I mean, yeah, man, I know LeBron and his group. I say that. So his group being Melo, CP, D Wade, for all the things that they've done for their generation of basketball players and the league as a whole. Like, you got to commend them. They changed a lot of stuff, bro. Like, especially on the money side. Being able to get a version of a max deal at 38 years old is insane. But they created opportunities like that. So I always talk about the player as a whole. When I think about Michael Jordan, and I mean, you can only talk about basketball. You talk about LeBron James, you could talk about his whole person concept, philanthropy, everything he's done for the NBA and his players outside the NBA. And so there's a lot of things that go into the GOAT talk. I don't just like to troll. When I'm talking GOAT talk, again, probably because of my age, I'm probably focused on winning mostly, like as you say, the rings. But then, that's just your childhood. How do you escape that? It's hard to escape that.
Exactly.
Right? And I seen Mike play 3 times in person, and like every game he didn't disappoint. Like every game he went and got 30 or more and did some crazy stuff that I'll never forget. And it's like, that's just locked into my his burger.
You know what? I might concede my GOAT argument just off of that alone, because I done went and saw LeBron several times, and I left out of there highly upset. Upset.
Yeah, man. So, and I think that's it, bro. Like, so between you and I'm gonna just say right now, we ain't never had no crazy beef. I done seen some wild arguments. We had some moments where we're like, okay, cool, we exchanged some stuff, but it's like, whenever I get to talk to this man in person, like, it's still respect, because I understand you're not just speaking from like, oh, that's just my guy, right? A lot of people will speak from, oh, that's just my guy. Exactly. I like the stats. I like everything that you bring into it. Ultimately, when you talked about, like him making everybody better on his team despite who they were, that's always gonna get overlooked. Because a lot of people are like, who cares? You know what I mean? But it ultimately, no, like if it's a team sport, basketball is a team sport. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're looking at when these kids are in college and you realize, okay, look, that's a 5-star, and the dude that starts at center is a 1-star. But he made him do what he needed to do that season to get them to where they are. And then all of a sudden, get to the NBA, you forget about that. Like, that don't matter no more. But no, it matters. So I definitely support that. And he didn't lead by fear. Kobe and Mike led by fear, straight up, which is a crazy concept to me, because I've been playing ball all my life like you, like, and I ain't never had a teammate. I'm like, yo, he said to do this. I'm like, man, I don't care what he said to do. Like, if it's in the wheelhouse of the play, sure, but like, I'm not afraid of you. Like, what? So leading by fear, like, you hear people say, I was afraid of him. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't know. I can't rock with that, but maybe that's just how I grew up. So it is what it is. But yeah, I appreciate LeBron for being himself despite all of the hate he's received. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the one thing that Kobe and Mike ain't never really had to deal with, publicly getting torn apart. Like, he's been torn apart too many times. You know what I mean? Too many times.
All the way to the point where they're tearing his son up, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
It's not that deep, bro. Don't do that to people, especially another black man. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I leave it.
But see, that was always my talking points as it related to the GOAT conversation. I'm looking at it strictly from a standpoint of the game of basketball and how it was designed to be played. So if somebody that's, just say, an alien came down to earth and was asking for your best example, who was your example for basketball? And when I hear that question, I'm like, points, rebounds, assists, defense, everything that you need to try to win a game. I'm not saying that Jordan didn't give you all of those things, because he did. But I'm saying to you, Jordan was never tasked with having to orchestrate it all once the Bulls started winning. Now, early in Jordan's career, when they asked him to run point and he had that stretch where he had the triple doubles and things like that, it's like, if you go back and look at those highlights or those clips, it's like that was just solely off athleticism, in my opinion. He's jumping higher than everybody. Everybody else jump, I'm dumping down. It wasn't, I'm running the point similar to a Magic Johnson and I'm dishing and creating. I was at that game, Cleveland versus the Pacers, when they came back down 20. Tyronn Lue benched Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. And I saw him orchestrate a comeback, the largest comeback, with Channing Frye, Kyle Korver. And I'm like, if you're just looking at it from a basketball standpoint, I'm like, bro, his hands was all over that. He's setting people up. He's getting to the basket when the paint opened up, because you have to respect the shooters. I'm like, so when people say, oh, he handpicks his teams, I'm like, he's handpicking them according to his skill set. Now, granted, that was my biggest flaw against LeBron. He never altered his game to counter other people, to where it's like, okay, I'm the second option or the third option, but based on our personnel, I fit in and I can be that. It's like with him, I'm the alpha. Everybody else has to adjust their game accordingly. And that's why when you get all the mixing and matching of pieces, if it don't work by the trade deadline, it's like, oh, this person's gone, that person's gone. Is it fair to them? Of course not. And it looks terrible as a casual fan. It's like, bro, he's always handpicking and trading and this and that. But it's like, you knew, going back to what you said earlier, when it was like, oh, playoff Bron, you knew that for at least 60 games of the season, he's trying to figure out, what can I do with this team?
Fact.
Once I get to this mode where it's like it's late April, I know what we got. Boom, let's go. But I'm saying to people, it's like, bro, Jordan never had that type of responsibility. I got to go rebound. I got to bring the ball up. I got to drop 30. I got to make sure everybody's getting touches. And if the game's on the line, I got to be ready to hit the game-winning shot.
That's fair.
And I'm like, bro, I'm like, what are we doing here? So then everybody goes back to, and we ain't going to make it long, you said winning. You cannot argue that. Everybody wants to win. 6-0 is hard. Like, it sounds foolish to even argue against that. 6-0. Now, what I do hate, and when I'm going to hit the button on,
I disagree.
There it is.
is the 10 scoring titles.
Oh, okay.
I hate that argument. 10 scoring titles to 1. Now, here's my question back to you.
All right.
Common sense or just logic would say that if I lead the league in field goal attempts, one should have the highest scoring average. I shoot the ball the most.
Yeah. The AI effect. I know that's your guy.
I love AI, and he falls into that boat too. So I'm saying, I'm like, even if you go back to Houston, James Harden,
yeah,
like, that's a give me, in my opinion. There's never a time in the history of Michael Jordan where anybody took more shots than Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I'm gonna just go with that. You're probably right there. And I think the difference is, like, in the 80s, even into the 90s, man, like, nobody cared about player efficiency, bro. Like, that wasn't even a talk. It's for real. Like, how are you getting the job done? And if that's how you get it done, then that's how you get it done. So for me now, when you look about how the game is, how it's the transition of the positionless, if you will, basketball game now, like that's what makes everything so much different and more difficult is because now a player that has the frame of, I don't know, a 6'10, 6'11 big man is playing like a guard. You know what I mean? Or creating a matchup where LeBron, if you will, he's got to guard KD, where that ain't, to me, that ain't the right matchup for him. But that's the matchup that we got to have. And so you're looking at a KD who's still at that time pretty young. I don't even think he 30 when he hit Golden State, maybe turning 30,
maybe.
But I mean, not saying LeBron was washed by any measure, but a dude that moves as fluid as KD and can get any shot, and he's already 2.5 inches taller than Bron. Like, the only thing Bron has is his physicality, but you're not being physical at 23, 24 feet. Like, you just can't. Like, you gotta play it smartly. So I understand because those are the two titans, right? Like, yeah, LeBron's got to guard him. I'm like, that's the wrong matchup. Like, I don't want LeBron guarding him because he's just in a bad position because he doesn't have his ability to help like he does on defense. He's out there by himself on the island, and if he gets beat behind him, who's there? Kevin Love? Like, what? Come on, fam. Like, or Tristan Thompson? Like, what? Like, not to throw shade, but I'm like, that's not help. Like, come on, dude. So for me, like, I just realized the game has changed so much. So yes, when you look at what Mike did and just the volume of shots, like, that would be a bad look for LeBron. Terrible look for LeBron in this era of basketball because, I mean, it's just not played the same. And it's really hard to go through one person in that way. So Michael Jordan, though he was not a point guard, had the ability to get the ball and create a shot. Cool. But now you have dudes like Luka and you got, everybody else, like, they are primarily the ball handler on their team as well. So that changes how things look. Like, Luka is the point guard, if you will, right? Like, so he doesn't need anybody to get him to a set. And though Mike didn't, they had to run a set. Going to your point, they ran the triangle offense and the things that they did. Like, man, I don't know. What's a real offense in the NBA today? Like, so
That's as good as mine, dude.
Because everybody's supposed to be able to get the ball and do their thing, right? That's what you're built. Like, you build teams where it's like, we got 3-4 players on the court at any given moment that can create for themselves or their teammates. There's no offense needed. Set a screen and go. Like, what? So the game has evolved so much. And even as I've gotten older and watched the game, I'm like, you know what? I don't even have the same take in certain lanes of LeBron because I'm like, I'm just wrong. I'm flat out wrong. Like, that wouldn't work today. You can't plug and play just because you remember how something was done. The game has evolved. Like, man, a good game in the 80s and 90s, like you said, it's 90-90, and that's high scoring. They got 90.
It's hard to stomach, bro, and that's like, dude,
if I miss the organ, though, I miss it.
like I'm getting to that point too because back to what you said earlier, like there's zero defense being played, and it's like when you take a guy who, my best example is Kawhi.
Yeah,
5 or 6 years ago, he was like, he's the best two-way player. He's locking people up. People feared Kawhi, and it's like now, no disrespect to Kawhi, but it's like, bro, he's just a guy out there now. And you thought when they put that team together, him, PG out on the perimeter, they're going to lock everything. Like,
no,
you don't see it. There's no emphasis on defense anymore. But it's just like my biggest take, and you can ask anybody that knows me, I always used to tell people, I'm like, bro, just go back and watch. Just go back and watch. So now you get this trend of we done with the 90s and everybody's posting these clips. Now, granted, I just be trolling when I share them because I'm not that foolish to think Mike didn't have a left and this and that. It's like, come on, man, that's just ignorance. That's just ignorance. But I'm saying that I kind of love it because it's like now people get rid of that illusion that's stuck in their mind from our childhood.
Yeah.
Like, all you know is the Gatorade commercials. Sometimes I dream, and it's like, I feel like people, that's how they view Mike. He's not human.
Right.
Like, everything he done on the court was just spectacular. It was always the right thing to do. He made every buzzer beater. And I'm like, bro, I watched the Bulls in the finals be down 16 points and Phil pulled Mike.
Yeah.
And his supporting cast, closed the gap. And when Mike came back, Mike was Mike. He went on and got the job done. But when I hear people arguing, it's like, oh, Horace Grant's wash, he's trash, Pippen wasn't this. And I'm like, bro, for that time period, there was not anybody that was going to compete with the Chicago Bulls, regardless of who they put in front of them.
Yeah. And
they took care of business.
There's a lot to be said about that because, again, like we've discussed, game was different. But from 15 to 17 foot, like there was probably nobody better, maybe Barkley, than Horace Grant during that time. Like he was key. Like he knocking that down. Then you had the ability to put the ball in Scottie Pippen's hands and change the dynamic of the same offense. Like we're not running through, I guess you could say Paxson or Steve Kerr bringing it up. Like, I'm gonna do that and change how the defense has to play me, so your job is easier. Like that was not game changing because we had Magic and we had Penny Hardaway at that time. But like for the Bulls to adapt to that and had the ability to make it efficient and still be the best team in the NBA at that point, yeah, that's pretty dope. So yeah, you cannot knock those players for what they brought. Tony Kukoc was another one, right? Like, I mean, he was like one of the, I won't say first, but one of the most influential early on European players. Because, I mean, they knew about him back in 92 and they kind of shut him down. But by the time he transitioned to the league, he's like, nah, Tony's a problem. Like, Tony is really, really a problem. So, it's those things like that that the people will not do enough research on and understand. And I've always been on your side with that. Like, it's hard to put talent against each other because it's the different eras and they had to play differently. But you can't just say Mike did it by himself, and you can't just say, well, he had Pippen either, because for what they needed and for what they wanted from the head coach down worked for them. And I think that's why Kobe, was able to. And I know Kobe and Phil have their own history, but I think Kobe was able to adapt to that because he understood, like, if he did this for Mike, I better listen. You know what I mean? Like, I better listen. And I think that helped him to understand, and they were able to win even without Shaq. You know what I mean? So those type of things are very important. And to then go compare that to LeBron, well, you have who you have. And so if your coaches are not Phil Jackson, you still got to go out there and play. And so that counts, though. Like you said, like, who was that? Because, like, that ain't who you want to put over a superstar like LeBron. Is insane. Like, I'm like, why couldn't they find Mark Jackson, you know what I mean, before Golden State could? Or, like, I was always thinking these type of things, like, who's actually, like, really working on Cleveland's, like, hiring staff to be like, nah, we got to go get a coach, fam. Like, like, this is crazy.
Granted, I'll also admit that in terms of LeBron, I feel like as a coach, that's got to be one of the hardest things, because
to coach him.
Yes.
Okay.
He's a diva, bro. Like, I will openly admit that. It's like, at the end of the day, he's LeBron.
Yeah.
And that's why I said nobody has really been on the level of him. You don't have a Phil Jackson no more.
Right.
You don't have, he didn't get to play for Pop or nobody like that. But if you look at those Olympic teams, they were able to scale him down.
Yeah.
Like, you're not bigger than Coach K.
Yeah, facts. And he had to learn that, man. And I think too, like, bro, when you honestly, like, just lay everything out, man. Like, especially, I guess you can go back to the Walton years when he first Luke Walton, when he first got to LA. Like, you knew at that point, like, okay, I know this ain't the right coach, but if you're gonna put him in a star-studded place like that, the big bright lights, and he got the pressure on him, like, who is the right coach? And I don't do you think they've even found the right coach to be out there? Like, and that's my point, man. Like, and I put that on Jenny Buss. Like, come on, you've had some titans out there. You know what I mean? The Rileys, the Phil Jacksons. Like, you got to give this man something. Darvin Ham, no offense, but no, we're not doing that. Like, you have to be able to bring somebody in, especially when you had those early teams that with all the stars, if you will. I know they are different parts of their career, but you have a team that was loaded with Melo, Westbrook, him, and everybody else that was on that team. Bro, who coaching that? Like, who coaching that? So I feel like you have to be able to look LeBron in the face and be like, hey, man, to make this happen, this is who's coming in. And to make that work, he's got to be the person that's running stuff. Like, the one thing that I like, did you watch that series? I know it was short, but the Showtime series about the
Yes.
Lakers.
Yep.
And you
Sure.
seen like, yeah, like how Magic didn't go right with West Head and all that other stuff.
Mhm.
Like that was so awesome to kind of like see, because of course I didn't know none of that, but like just understanding that dynamic of player and coach. I think LeBron can easily have his own series with every coach he's had. Mike Brown, can you imagine some of those conversations? Like,
Right.
you don't know nothing, man. Sit your ass down. I got it.
And
Like,
that's why, honestly, I feel like that is his gift and a curse. And I'm glad that this season the Lakers stood on it. It's like, bro, we're not making no trades. We're not doing this. Like every year since you've been here, we've gutted and tried to accommodate you. And where has it gotten us? So now the pressure's back on him.
facts.
You got to do what you're supposed to do. You asking for all the money. We giving you the money. We giving you everything. Do it.
Yeah. And that's the state of the game, man. Like, you know what I mean? So, again, I always want to put that out there. Like, and it's hard to do that when we just talking socially. Like, I don't have no hate for LeBron at all. Zero. Honestly, I promise you. Some of my buddies will tell you I was his biggest supporter. It's just that at certain points, I'm like, man, you got to take accountability to this. Sort of like how we talked about Giannis, right? Like, Giannis came out there and was like, hey, ain't no else. And I understand what he was saying. I think we both had a different viewpoint, but it's like, at that moment, like I haven't seen LeBron even kind of been in that same space when they like, hey man, like, so you had all these superstars and y'all didn't even make the playoffs or got put out round one. Like, how you feel about that? Is that on you or whatever? Like, I ain't never. Maybe they know not to ask that because they'll never get another shot. I don't know, but I'm like, is he taking accountability for this? So that's kind of when I started to be like, all right, man. I feel like you got to have a little bit more responsibility on your plate as far as like, yeah, that didn't work, and it is what it is. We got to get better. Something, say something. That's what I was like. Say something.
So good stuff. Like I said, we're gonna get ready to wrap it up here in a
Yeah,
minute.
for sure.
But you mentioned it twice, Giannis.
Yeah.
So I wanna touch on that just for a moment.
Okay.
Not necessarily about what happened last year, but just overall over the course of the last, I want to say 4 years.
Okay.
The league, I don't even want to say the league, society as a whole has been looking for somebody to replace LeBron to the point to where we've just been anointing so many people. This is the new this is the LeBron stopper, this is the new face of the league, da 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 da. And my argument that entire time was, okay, if you're gonna say Giannis is now on this stage and he's equal to a LeBron or he's on that level of these caliber players, then why are we not holding him to the same standards?
Fair enough.
It's like he has a defensive player of the year under his belt. He has all of these things under his belt. These are the same accolades that people said made Jordan superior. So I'm saying to you, then why is Giannis not viewed on that same scale? So if you get somebody like Jimmy Butler who gets into a zone, take the challenge.
Cooking him right.
Even if you lose the game, take the challenge.
Step out there. Yeah.
And that's why I kept saying, I'm like, bro, like, no, you like not. If it happens once, all right, that's luck of the draw, whatever. Yeah. But it happened over the course of a series. I'm like, take the challenge. You're supposed to be the guy. Why are we not viewing him or critiquing him from the scale of somebody that's supposed to be the guy? And they were a number 1 seed.
Yeah, that's the tough thing too, because a lot of people live in the moment, right? So you say people get anointed based off the moment, and you put somebody in the moment. And I think Giannis is probably one of my top 5 players currently right now. But I understood his limitations, offensively and defensively. Like, I mean, he's a long, lengthy player, can switch out on a lot of people, but like you said, take the challenge. Jimmy Butler out there at 22, 23 feet operating against Giannis is not the look you want on defense. It just ain't gonna work. Like, because he's gonna be able to get around him, put him in bad spaces. Jimmy is real creative. Pump fake here, foul there. Giannis in foul trouble on the bench. So he does not have that defensive presence as a young LeBron who was moving very fluidly. You know what I mean? At 6'8", out on the wing when he was 23 years old. Giannis never could do that. Giannis was like, I'm a force in the middle. Yeah, I could switch out, make your jump shot tough, but
there you go. That's what I was praying that you said that. I was waiting for that. I was like, it ain't even about shutting him down.
Just make it tough.
Just make it harder.
Fast. And I think you're right. He's supposed to be able to just feel that within himself, like any other great player would do, right? Like, hey, coach, I hear what you're saying, but like, send him my way. I'm okay with the switch. He's got to shoot over me. Do that a couple times down, change the flow of the game, and let's see if we can get it back on offense. Something. You're absolutely right, man. And like, again, when we text and stuff, it's hard to get both points of view out, right? But now as I'm hearing you speaking what you're saying, that's 1,000%. Do that. And that at least changes the way we're accepting what's happening to us. Because that's a lot of times I feel like the NBA now, you just accept what happens. Like when you're watching Steph Curry, I'm like, y'all just accepting this. Like you throwing your hands up like, yeah, he's going for 55 tonight. Let's just accept it. Like, no, there's always an adjustment. So you're 1,000% right, man. But I felt like he got anointed too quickly.
And honestly, that's what made me cried for LeBron even more, because I kept looking at it and it's like any team that they lost to, KD's the man now. Now, granted, KD got injured, so that changes everything. So you kind of give KD a pass because it's unfortunate that he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, big fact.
But then it's like, okay, that year Kawhi was the man. Kawhi's got the commercials. He's the new king in LA. He's the this, he's the that. And it's like the Clippers have not even come remotely close to living up to those expectations. So Kawhi was the man in San Antonio. I ain't gonna say he was the man. He was on the verge of becoming the man.
Fair.
He goes to Toronto. Amazing season. Cannot take that away from him. But then it's like, now what? And I'm like, okay, Giannis, he's the man now. Doc Rivers is finna take the biggest heat for something that I feel like they have enough vets, they have enough players to know that just even if we don't have a coach, there's no way that they start out 30-13 and now they're 15-15 following that. And I'm like, bro, I laugh and joke about the Doc Rivers thing, but I'm like, we knew from the jump that Dame and Giannis do not fit together.
Yeah.
Those are not complementary pieces.
Nah, bro. Not even close.
I'm just like, what are we doing with this? But I'm like, no, I want y'all to hold them to the same scale. It's like by the time LeBron went to Miami, he has to win a chip or his career is a wash. It's a this and that. And I'm like, Giannis got one. Why is Giannis not viewed as he's supposed to own the East? If the East was so easy when LeBron was running it, why is it that Giannis is not supposed to be viewed from that same lens?
Oh no, I think I lost you, big dog.
No, I think that's my camera. My camera died. Can you still hear me though?
Yeah, I hear you for sure.
Okay, we'll keep the audio real quick before we wrap it up. But I'm just saying, it's like, why is Giannis not viewed as he's supposed to be the king of the East?
No, I think you make a very, very solid point. And I think the issue is like because the East for a minute shifted, right? Like the West has always been tough, but like for a minute, the East was kind of like, all right, man, like Boston's coming up. You know what I mean? Chicago had a few players, especially doing the Derrick Rose thing. Now, again, that's died off. But then Milwaukee kind of came out of nowhere. Like, who are the Milwaukee Bucks? The Pacers had a moment when they was up there. The Heat are what they are. Philly, blah, blah, blah. So he, inherited a different East than LeBron, if you will. And I feel like that's where we go wrong by trying to anoint people, because I'm like, man, you got to look at what's happening around the NBA. Like, there's going to be a void once LeBron leaves, because right behind him, Steph Curry is already, 36 years old, 37?
Yeah.
So then you're going to have Steph maybe a couple of years after LeBron, or they might go out at the same time. Who knows? But you should just watch the game, let the game happen, and see what happens, because you're going to have players like Luka. He already getting to talk. Maybe he's the next one. But, like, what does that next one even look like? Because we're looking at Titans to carry torches, right? We're looking at Kobe's, Jordan's, Magic's, Birds. Like, I don't think this new era is going to produce that. We're just going to have exciting basketball. I don't know if after the Golden State, they got four over the course of a decade. Is that where they at? 4-10 or something like that. But I don't know if you'll see that again. Like, do you think is there a team currently built right now that you could say over the next 5 years they can win 3 championships?
No.
Yes, no more dynasties.
But here's the pushback though.
Okay.
Just real quick, and like I said, we'll get off here. My camera and stuff don't start dying on me, and I don't want to lose this.
No, you good.
I will say that I love what OKC is doing.
Yeah.
OKC has the ability to make something special happen if they run it the right way. They have an abundance of picks that they can manipulate, even if they want to use them to bring in a veteran star to help guide that young group, or keep building through the draft and just let them grow naturally, kind of like a Golden State.
Yep.
But OKC has the potential to do something special. I'm not saying in the next 3 to 5 years, possibly, but the blueprint is there.
And I think they're more equipped now that you say that to have this, potential, greatness because of what they learned from the first time, the KD, the Harden, the Westbrook thing. Like, I feel like not that they didn't support those guys. They did all they could. They drafted them all. But I felt like they didn't manage the personalities correctly. And that led to the demise, right? And I feel like, when you realize, damn, that was only 10 years ago. You're like, that seems like forever ago, but you're like, nah, that finals against them was what, 2015? So not even 10 years ago. That was like the Cavs and OKC was 2015, I think it was. So you just got to think about. No, I'm lying. That's 20.
No, that was
20.
Miami.
Yeah, 2013. Had to be 2013 because 2012 is when he.
12 is when he got the first one.
Was 12 when they got the first one?
Yeah.
So right, because they lost in 11 to Dallas.
Yep.
Yeah, so 12. Okay, so yeah, that's been 12 years. My bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that seems like yesterday, right? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, they have a short history of, hey, look, we already had one big three, and we had some success, but not the ultimate success. So how do we play this, better the second time around? So yeah, I agree with that. I actually like my Pacers too, not to like become some dynasty. We got to learn how to play defense, but like we got pieces that I feel like will at a certain point make us, a constant, we could type team. Like that's what Indiana will be. We could, but until we know how to play defense, we ain't doing nothing, fam. So that's another conversation. We got to have a defensive conversation next time.
Absolutely, man. So in closing, man, dope conversation. I love this. That's why I tell people I could do this all day long, man. We've been on here for almost an hour and a half, and it don't even feel like it. And I feel like so much was left on the table because in terms of this Jordan, LeBron, I had my mind set on all my talking points and where I was going to go. And it's like the conversation just kind of free flowed, and that's cool. It leaves it open for another day. But I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to leave you with this curveball.
Okay.
We talk about where the game is today. You just touched on it's not really going to be, any more dynasties, possibly. Who knows? But can you not trace all of that back to Mike?
As far as
when Mike came in, it was team oriented.
Yep.
Boston, Lakers, team basketball.
Yep.
Michael Jordan put the spotlight on individualism.
Oh, I see where you're going with that.
And ever since then, it's been like, I got to get mine. I got to be this killer. I got to do this and do that. So now you get your Allen Iversons, you get your whoever else, and just go on down the line to where we are today.
No, that's real. And I mean, I know it was just a movie, but if you've seen that movie Air, that's basically how they sold. That's how they pitched them, right? Like, I believe your son can be something completely different than anything and take it to a whole nother level. So you're right. It is individualism now. And that's tough if you have, the heart of a basketball fan, because you want to see, okay, look, this team is this and this and this. But a lot of times you get caught up on, man, damn, if this player don't do that, then the whole thing is over.
One person is supposed to change the outcome to a lot.
Even in youth basketball. And I know you're a youth coach. I know you see that. It's crazy. Youth basketball. You're letting it all ride on this 1 8-year-old. Like if he don't show up today, we toast, right? Like that's crazy.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's for another conversation too, man. But I appreciate for one, let me just shout you out, man. I appreciate your platform. I appreciate all of the people that you bring to your platform. Boy, you got some characters, man. I love all of their energy, all of their perspectives. I love how y'all, talk about things. So keep doing that, man. Keep letting people, into the circle and then bringing that to everybody to listen. And I know the supporter grow, bro. And we definitely got to talk about your shoe collection next time. Cause I mean, the way you bring the bronze out is crazy. Like I ain't never even seen that one. So yeah, so I'm with that, man. Support your guy. No matter what nobody say, man, it is what it is that you support your guy. So keep doing your
Absolutely,
thing,
man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that, man. Plug your shows real quick, man,
Yes,
before we get
sir.
off here.
All right, man. So Complicatedly Misunderstood podcast, anywhere you listen, but primarily Spotify, Apple. That's where you can find that one. I am not as consistent as my boy right here, so I know he dropping them. I need to get better. So definitely I will try to get better there. And then my other one, the Sick Podcast, Amble Show. We honestly trying to grow our YouTube following base, and I know that's been a freaking struggle for my boy over here as well. We feel that same pain. So it's like, man, if I got 5,000 on Facebook, well, I got 300 on YouTube. Come on, man, support the channel. So that's where you can find us on that one, man. And we do that once a week, primarily on a Tuesday night. But yeah, if you're a Colts fan and you rock with all things Colts, check us out, man.
Good stuff, man.
Appreciate
y'all
you.
Know the routine, man. Go hit the like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we are out.
Yes, sir.
Ass toasted, no competition. I'm East coasting. I feel so high, I feel so live. My body's in the twine. I'm East coasting. I feel so live, and I know why. That I can't deny. I'm East coasting. Giddy, fine wine, fools, malt liquor. Wish me I'm high class.